Hello. I've not really been going to that many tournaments recently, so I was looking forward to this one. It's the Flight to the Ford, which is another tournament hosted at Wargames Workshop in Milton Keynes. So it's hosted by the Outriders group, who sort of operate from the shop. I really like the people and vibe, and always have good games. So I always try and make it down if I can. So I could this time, which is great. So it's a 400-point tournament. Since I'm quite out of sorts with this new edition, I haven't really played it that much compared to how much I was playing the last edition. I've kind of probably play a bit more Old World now than Middle Earth. So I was at a massive loss as to what to take. So 400 points. Obviously, back in the day, I'd default to Helm's Guard or Ugluk Scouts or something of that ilk, I suppose. I've had a few ideas around, but I really like the idea of taking Grief of Eomer. So my army list is Eomer on 5 foot with armour. He's got throwing spears and a shield, and then he's leading 1 Rider of Rohan with banner, 3 Riders of Rohan with throwing spears, and then 12 Riders of Rohan without throwing spears. So 17 models, 400 points. I thought that'd be really good because the Grief of Eomer is like fight 7. He re-rolls all the wound rolls and all that kind of nasty stuff. So I submitted my list, and then it transpired that it's an illegal list because the Riders of Rohan do count towards a bow limit in that list. Because obviously I meant to run it with Eomer and Hurin, but I just wanted to run it with just the Rohan element. But no. So I guess it doesn't really work at 400 points. So I seamlessly pivoted to Riders of Eomer with the same list, but it is now legal. So Riders of Eomer. So special rules. There's a rule linked to Gandalf, which basically does what the old Shade used to do. So -1 to dual rolls, but I don't have Gandalf, so it's irrelevant. So Riders of Rohan don't count towards a bow limit in this, which is nice. And then Rohan Cavalry gets +1 strength on the charge, which is really nice. But Eomer gets free hero at combat. So this list is basically Eomer does everything. So strength of the list is pretty obvious. Model count's pretty good for 400 points. Eomer is a beast in this edition. Obviously he's got 3 attack, 3 wounds, 3 might, will and fate. 5 foot's move 12. Free hero at combat is horrific. So it's pretty good in that regard. And obviously riders, they can hit pretty hard, but you've also got an option to sort of take more of a skirmishy approach. So good list. Well, not good. Well, we'll come on to whether it's a good list or not. But strong positive elements of the list. But the downsides are, I think I'm missing another hero for an all cavalry list. I think I could have probably done with. I suppose this is the problem with sort of changing my list because it was illegal in the first place. Is if I'd have put a bit more thought into it, I probably would have taken a captain or maybe even elf helm at 800 points. Probably lose 5 riders to get a hero, but just having that extra store of might and that hitting power, I think it's probably worth it. But warrior spam's not too bad, but it just means that whilst I do get the free combats, and it means that Eomer's might should solely be for sort of move offs and then potentially a strike if I have to. It does still mean it's pretty limited, and obviously the thing about Riders of Rohan, which everyone knows, is as soon as they lose a priority, get counter charge, they can just get walloped by a bunch of stuff, especially with Fight 3 not being as good as it used to be. But with all that said, let's just get into the games. So game 1 was against Andrew, and he had a really cool list actually. So he had a Kings of Men list, and he had a King of Gondor leading a few tin cans, like a little shield wall type thing, and then force it into a guard with longbow, and then he also that was the leader as well. So he's got the extra might, that King of Men, and then he had a King of Arnor, and I think he was leading a few horsemen of Arnor, but he was mounted whilst the King of Gondor was on foot. So the Arnor King has the extra attack. I really like this theme actually. It kind of feels like a Battle of Fornost, but kind of with some sort of survivors of Arnor teaming up with Gondor, as you know, as well as just elves or whatever. So very cool list. So we were playing Stake a Claim, which is one of the new scenarios. Very good scenario. It's the one with 5 objectives, 2 along the midline, and then 1 in each sort of deployment area. And this is the one where you gain fortification points. So basically the game rewards you for being around the objective throughout the game rather than just sort of ending up on it, which I think is really, really nice scenario. Deployment wise, in fact board wise, we had 2 rivers running through the board and a few bits of wood. We were playing the rivers as shallow, so it didn't really affect me, but then Andrew had a ford right in front of him, so he just kind of went over it, and the rivers didn't really play a huge part in the game, to be fair. So I just deployed everything, just obviously as one warband drop, just sort of in the middle. Obviously being cavalry, I can just react to stuff, so I didn't really think that hard about it. Andrew deploys his shield wall in the opposite sort of side of me, obviously, in the middle of the board. And he's got his cavalry on his left wing, and then a few citadel archers on his right. So we sort of just both push up a bit. I don't push up too much. I'd obviously just do that Rohani thing where I sort of hang back and, you know, shoot a few things. Trying to dehorse the King of Arnor more than anything. My shooting does nothing this whole game, so I'll just get that out of the way. Yeah, so this sort of like, you know, pre-game sort of skirmishing about didn't really come to much. I think he shot one of my guys off his horse, but he just kind of went and stood next to the objective on my left in the woodland, so it didn't really have an impact on anything. I think later on he may have shot another guy, but overall shooting not that crazy. And basically I kind of have a choice immediately whether to just chuck Aemir in and obviously combat off of someone and then either go, you know, carry on going into them or go backwards. Because none of my other riders could reach. So I basically put all of my riders out of 6, apart from the banner, who I had to put behind Aemir just to make sure he got all the rerolls he wanted. But I had a friend to pick up the banner in case I lost priority the following turn, so the banner was safe either way. Aemir just sort of thundered into a couple of guys, combated off them, killed another couple of guys. So obviously 4 models down before combat's really joined is exactly what I wanted to do, because my whole plan was basically if I can dehorse the Arnor King and then pretty much just ignore the kings until I'm, you know, I killed so many of his warriors just by combating around that I'm not too worried about them. That was the plan. Following turn, I think there's a bit of a move off which I win, and I just sort of get my whole line stuck in. I try and tar pit the King of Arnor a bit by just sort of chucking in a rider, and you know, just kind of if I can bait, I might point out that's not horrific for me, but if not, then I'm obviously just tying him down for a turn, so that's okay. Aemir, I charged the 2 sort of Arnor horsemen that he had sort of hanging back, just because I think his horses are the main threat to me, because obviously they sort of negate my charge bonus, so I just wanted to, I mean, sorry, aside from the kings, obviously the bigger threat, but yeah, I just wanted to get them off the board really. So I suppose just to summarise as well, I had two riders on my left wing, and I wasn't really sure what to do with them, whether they'd sort of cut back in and go around the back or just charge for the archers, but I just made a charge for the archers, charged them into combat with the archers, killed 2, and then I'm pretty sure my 2 riders and the 2 remaining Citadel Guard just spent the game bouncing off each other, so yeah, fine. But in the middle, I think basically over the course of a few turns I kill all the infantry, because I think I get quite lucky with the priorities and the move offs and stuff. So I sort of kill the infantry, and basically just try and slow down the King of Arnor, and you know, put him in a position where he can combat off me if he wants, but there's always, you know, a rider between him and Aemir. I just basically don't want Aemir and both kings in at the same time. The Aemir does lose a combat to the enemy king. This is kind of a mistake from the opening for me, because although I sort of blocked the king being able to sort of combat through my lines and get my banner, I kind of didn't anticipate him so much combating and then sort of going backwards towards Aemir. So, you know, whilst the first turn was great because I killed the two sort of riders of Arnor, subsequently he got his king into me, dehorsed Aemir. I got off relatively lightly, and ultimately I had enough to just keep sort of peeling and, you know, blocking stuff, but with his captain of King of Arnor, I didn't really touch him in the end, but the game more or less ended with almost all of his stuff dead, and just before the end of the game, I managed to win the move off, which is quite lucky, and I got Aemir and a rider into a charging rider, importantly into his King of Gondor. So I think I already chipped a few wounds off in a previous round of combat or something. But that turn obviously managed to get the knockdown with the charging cav, win the combat, and then polish him off just before the end of the game. So shockingly, I did win that 20-0 just because I got lots of yummy fortification points, broke him whilst just being unbroken, and did the other bits and bobs like killing the leader, and there might have been another few points up for grabs as well. It didn't feel like 20-0. It was actually pretty close because again, a few priorities go a different way. You know, more of my riders get sort of countercharged and, you know, killed, and then, you know, Aem is a bit more unlucky and takes a few wounds, or, you know, King of Arnold does a bit better chopping through stuff. It could have easily gone the other way. But yeah, it's a very, very good game, and as always, because I seem to end up playing playing Andrew quite a lot. That just seems like every time we meet, but it's every time we're at the same tournament. But yeah, no, it's good game, good one to start the day with. With that, we're on to game 2. Right, I think the summary of game 2 is going to be a bit shorter. So I came up against my regular opponent, Thomas Denny, who had Sons of Ale. So had Ale, King of Gondor on horse with lance, no armour or shield though, I guess just points wise. And then I think he had like 8 Sons of Ale and then a rider with banner. We drew domination. The layout of the objective didn't really matter that much. And I had a problem here because obviously he had Ale and a king who are both pretty nasty. I had Aemir who's nasty, but there's only one of him, and I've got 3 might compared to their 6 or more mics. Obviously Ale might get mic points back. And his riders are just better than mine because they're a higher fight and they have 2 attacks and they're defense 6 and I think a strength 4 as well. That doesn't make a huge amount of difference for my defense 5. So I was a bit like, I think basically I just needed to get Aemir to just combat through a whole bunch of Sons of Vale before Thomas could react, and then hopefully just rely on my sort of numbers and dicing to sort of take down the others and just sort of, you know, deal with the heroes a bit later, hopefully. But I kind of was a bit cagey because obviously I had loads of bows and Thomas didn't have much shooting, so I sort of hung back first turn, did some shooting, nothing happened. So I think I had a couple of turns of shooting and it was pretty ineffective. And then I won priority for the following turn where he was in charge range, and so it was like, well, do I move backwards and do some more skirmishing, so I get another turn of skirmishing, but then Thomas may well move backwards and negate it, and then we just kind of do a sort of shadow boxing type thing, which to be fair isn't horrific for me. Or do I just get in now and sort of pick all the fights I want? In fact, I think I lost priority. I think that was the point, is that I could get in and pick the fights quite a lot. But yeah, so either way, I just went aggressive, and basically I sort of combated through a couple of guys with Aemir, which was very nice, and yeah, managed to do all that, and I managed to dehorse Ale pretty early on. But other than that, my warriors basically just did very little and got minced by the Sons of Ale. I didn't pick the best spot on the battlefield to fight because it was a bit of a choke point, so it kind of meant I struggled to bring my numbers to bear. So sometimes I had a couple of guys hanging at the back, which wasn't exactly not what I wanted. Aemir did okay, but then he got tag teamed eventually by the King and Ale, and just killed. It's kind of, to be honest, there's not a huge amount to say about this game. I didn't play it very well, and it went badly. So it's just one of those. But then I broke, and I was hoping that I could still sort of do well in the objective game. I think I had. What did I have? About 8 dudes left on the board because I broke when 9 were dead, so 8 were left on the board. And I won priority that round, and again I thought, I might be able to get enough to run away, pin stuff down, and then play the objective game and scrape a few points back. But 7 of the 8 dudes just ran away, so I just had a banner in the middle surrounded by dudes. So yeah, I just couldn't really plan for that. So that pretty much ended the game, and I got walloped something like 14-0. So it was a pretty devastating loss, but I think it's always going to be a tough matchup. But yeah, I didn't play it well, and I think I had bad luck, so I think that's not a winning combination. So with that, we had the lunch break, and then on to game 3. So game 3, I was playing Ed's Hobbits, and we drew Assassination, which I was super pleased about, because obviously he has hobbits, and there's a lot of scary scenarios you could be playing, like objective based games or whatever. But Assassination's not bad because Aemir is pretty chungus, and hobbit heroes are very squishy, so that's wonderful. So I've played Ed a few times before, and I've always really liked our games. But I also know hobbits aren't to be underestimated, but then equally, that went out the window, and I immediately underestimated hobbits and just thought I would just, there's 50 odd models, but I thought, I'm just going to walk through them. So he just had a whole bunch of, sort of a whole mix of hobbits, but he had Lobelia, Farmer Maggot, Farmer Cotton, Rosie, Will, I think it's Will Whitfoot, isn't it, or something like that, and Paladin Took, who was his leader. So I chose as my target Farmer Maggot just because I thought he'd probably have to throw Farmer Maggot in at some point. Because obviously I want to kill Lobelia, but I thought Lobelia is always going to be sort of lurking about, sort of protected at the back, to just do her annoying special rule where she can just shut a model down. So that that's who I chose. So I deployed right in the middle because I thought he'd hang back. We're playing on the riverboard again. I thought he'd hang back sort of in the woods and by the river and stuff, and just do lots of shooting and throw stones and stuff. So I deployed sort of 4.5 inches back, apart from 2 riders who I deployed a bit closer to see if I could kind of bait him to, kind of just come in towards me. So as it turned out, Ed played this. So the theme of this is Ed played this pretty much perfectly, and I played this horrifically, so just have that in the back of your mind. Ed deployed the massive hobbit bubble with his heroes in the middle, so they can't be combated into, and they're very well protected. So I'll be able to sort of have time to react to stuff. And then he had all his hobbit archers sort of set up separately to kind of like have this sort of enfilade fire type thing, and kind of just come in and help the bubble as well. So I think I lost the first priority, and I think he tied down those 2 riders, but it didn't really matter a huge amount. What did matter is obviously I just kind of charged everywhere. I got a bit reckless with it. Well, yeah, a lot reckless with Aemir, but at this point I charged him into, I think it was only 1 hobbit as well. I charged him into a hobbit with the view of just combating right the way around and threatening the heroes immediately, and then because the following turn, if I won the roll off, I could just get him into Farmer Maggot. So basically the plan was to combat off this one hobbit, get into Lobelia, squish her, and then following turn hopefully win priority, and then get into Farmer Maggot with the little hole I'd made. So what happened instead was I rolled a 4 high off of 4 dice. I was just out of banner range, and then obviously Ed rolls the 6, and then I just sort of die a little inside. But after that, I spend two might to win the combat. Sort of go there, squish Lobelia. Ed's like, "Oh, what have I done? Your target's obviously Lobelia," and it wasn't, which was annoying. But Lobelia's special rule just been a nightmare because, you know, like 4 turns on a 2+ just shutting down Aemir. Basically, I'll just lose the game because my list is very Aemir centric. But the other thing I do is I'm pretty good at sort of charging riders in, but then leaving a few back to kind of be out of charge range for the following turn. To then, you know, if I lose priority the next turn, they can kind of you know, counter charge and stuff. So I'll have charging horses for like a few turns at least. But I played very aggressively. I totally stretched my line out. But first turn I killed something like between 10 and 15 hobbits. I think it was something like that. It was pretty awesome. But then I lose the following priority, and yeah, basically I don't think I win another priority or move off again. I can't remember when I spent the Aemir's Might, to be honest, but it might have been for a move off which I lost. Honestly can't remember. But basically all my riders just got countercharged for the rest of the game and got whittled down. And then Aemir got surrounded and never rolled a 6. So in fact, no. I think one turn. I know where I spent the might. So the first turn of combat when he got surrounded, I spent the might to turn a 5 into a 6, and I killed one of Farmer Maggot's dogs and nothing else. I think he just sort of whiffed other than that. Or maybe I killed a hobbit and a dog, but it wasn't impressive. But then after that, Aemir never wins a combat, and then just eventually gets killed by hobbits. And then all my riders, just obviously because they're countercharged, just, you know, eventually get surrounded and ganked by hobbits. So I play this horrifically. So Ed pretty much wipes the floor with me and sort of drinks my tears. And I reveal that Lobelia was not my target, and obviously Aemir's dead, but not by the assassin's hand. So I think he won like 18-0 or 17-0. He only lost points for the assassin not killing Aemir. In retrospect, I played this horrifically. I think there's a slight weakness in the list, which is where I just don't have enough might to do what I want to do. But failing that first combat on a 4 high was annoying. Maybe, yeah, obviously I think not having the banner in range was not great. I should just not have done it turn 1, but I did see an opening with Lobelia, and my fear was AMH getting shut down the whole game, because that would have been horrific. But I shouldn't have just charged him in like that. But then not having I think a second hero would have helped, just to at least challenge the move offs and whatnot, because I think after I think I just didn't win a priority, or I think I may have won once, and then there was just a couple of moves, obviously from the hobbits, that just then negated the whole thing. So there's a bit of sort of lack of sort of my management and control, and then from me spreading out my line was a bad idea, and then AMA just peeing all his might up the wall. It was not a good show for me, but I did enjoy the game, as I always like playing Ed, and as you can see from the photos, the hobbits are very, very nice looking. So I think they've won Best Army more than once before. But with that, it was on to the final game. So final game, we finish up on a nice simple Lords of Battle. I was against Phil Horn, and he had Defenders of Pelennor, which was quite a cool list. He had Irolas and Ingold, who are lovely models and profiles, but have annoyingly similar names, and I always get them muddled up. And then a Bolt Thrower, so that was exciting. Basically, my tactics were not simple in this game. Other than the heroes, Phil had kind of mostly a shield wall with tin cans with Citadel Guard spears behind, couple of or 2 or 3 longbows, and then 3 knights as well. My strategy was more or less sort of a banzai. Obviously Phil deployed slightly back to get 2 turns of shooting in with the Bolt Thrower. The Bolt Thrower killed what did he kill? I think it was either just a horse or it was a horse and he took a rider out with it, but it was not super effective, this game. But again, I think this sort of overview is probably going to be quite straightforward in that basically, obviously, I just position it so I get first charge. So Phil does sort of get his knights in, because basically I wanted Phil to go first so that I can go second, and then he can't sort of counter my sort of charges. So he did pin down a few guys with his 3 knights coming forwards, but I was going to use that just to pinball Aemir off. So I kind of loaded up one combat with a knight, stuck Aemir in, combated off of it, and then Aemir sort of started attacking the side of the shield wall, and I took down one of the other knights. The third knight basically lived almost the entire game. He was pretty nuts. And then obviously on the bolt thrower front, Phil sort of screened his bolt thrower with his 3 crew, and I charged him with 3 riders. And basically I just sort of got stuck into the shield wall. First turn was very nasty. I think I took out probably about 8 or 9 models. It was pretty spicy. He did sort of whittle me down over the course of the game. I haven't actually got a huge amount of photos of this game, but it's quite simple in its trajectory, really. There's Aemir basically just doing combats everywhere and bouncing off loads of stuff and having a wonderful time. The bolt thrower crew, I think 2 of them die relatively quickly, but then one of them just refused to die and killed like 2 riders or something, so he was just absolutely not giving up that bolt thrower. And like I said, the knight lived for ages as well, and his 2 heroes were doing okay as well, and they called a couple of combats, and I think basically Aemir saw them off one at a time. I think one combated into a charging Aemir when I was combating sort of afterwards, and it was kind of one of those where I think he had like 1 might left, and it was a bit like, well, do you sort of save it for a strike, or do you just sort of call the free combat you get with the Defenders of Pelennor, or go into Aemir, hope for the best? And I think it was the way the game was going, I think it was just to chuck him into Aemir and see what happens, because I think worst case scenario, which is basically what happened, is he charged into Aemir and Aemir squished him. It's kind of, the game was sort of heading that way anyway, so it's not really too much to say actually. I think Rohan just kind of Rohan stuff. I was sort of fairly close to breaking by the end of the game, but I hadn't lost too many models. But I just think the first turn of charging was so devastating, and then Aemir just clearing up the combats meant that basically, with Rohan you kind of either just ride over everything or just completely bounce off, and it was definitely a sort of just ride over everything and have a good time knocking stuff over and killing it with strength 4. So it was it's quite a simple game, but it was kind of nice to have a sort of relatively chill game to end with. So yeah, I enjoyed that game, but that was it. That was the end of the day. So I was on 2 wins, 2 losses, which put me exactly mid-table of the 12 players who joined, who are playing. So Ed won with 4 wins, the only one to do so. So it's nice that one of my games I lost to the person who won it, and likewise with the other game, Thomas Denny, I lost to him, but he came second, and then Jacob came third with a list with Dragons of the North, with just 1 dragon, which is mildly terrifying. But yeah, no, it's good. I'm kind of a lot more sort of chill with tournaments now, I think. So it's just nice to just sort of come out and get some games in, basically, and it's a nice scene. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So hopefully I'll see you guys with the next one.